Stop scrolling for one moment. Something in you clicked on this video for a reason, and that reason was not an accident. God saw the nights you stayed awake doing the math in your head, trying to make numbers that never added up somehow work. He saw the bills you moved from one pile to another, hoping if you waited long enough, one of them would disappear. He saw the silent prayers you whispered in your car before walking into work, and the tears you wiped away before anyone could see them. And today, He wants you to know something. Your long-awaited money is finally coming. Before we go any further, welcome to Soft Strength. This is a place where tired hearts come to rest, where broken faith comes to be rebuilt, and where God's voice becomes clear again in the middle of your struggle. If this is your first time here, we are so glad you found us. And if you already know this channel, you know exactly why you are here today. Subscribe to Soft Strength and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss these messages, because what God is about to say to you is going to change the way you see your situation. You have been waiting, not for a little while, for a long time, long enough that you have stopped telling people the full truth about how hard it has been, long enough that you smile in public and cry in private, long enough that you have started to wonder if you did something wrong, if you missed some invisible instruction, if maybe this delay is punishment instead of preparation. Child, hear this clearly. This is not punishment. This is positioning. God is not against you. He has been working behind the scenes this entire time, arranging doors you cannot see yet, moving people into place, shifting circumstances that looked permanent but were only temporary. This message found you for a reason. Out of every video on this platform, out of every distraction competing for your attention right now, you are here. That is not luck. That is heaven interrupting your day on purpose. God is saying to you today, I have not forgotten you. I have not lost track of your need. I have not looked away while you struggled to keep your head above water. I have seen every sleepless night, and I am closing this chapter of lack in your life. Let's talk honestly about what waiting really feels like, because you already know, but sometimes it helps to hear someone say it out loud. Waiting feels like standing in a line that never moves while everyone around you seems to be walking straight through. Waiting feels like praying the same prayer so many times that the words start to feel empty in your mouth. Waiting feels like checking your account balance and feeling your stomach drop, even though you already knew what it would say. Waiting feels like smiling through gritted teeth when someone asks how you are doing, because the truth feels too heavy to say out loud in that moment. And in that waiting, doubt creeps in quietly. It doesn't announce itself. It slips in through small thoughts. Maybe God forgot about me. Maybe everyone else gets breakthroughs except me. Maybe I prayed wrong or believed wrong, or I am simply not important enough for a miracle. That confusion is heavy. It sits on your chest at night. It follows you into your job, into your relationships, into the quiet moments when nobody else is around to distract you from it. You have felt that confusion. You know exactly what it feels like to ask God why and hear nothing back but silence. But here is something most people don't realize. Silence is not absence. When God feels far away, He is often doing His deepest work. A seed does not make noise while it grows underground. You cannot see roots forming beneath the soil, but that does not mean nothing is happening. The most important part of your breakthrough is happening right now, in the part you cannot see, in the waiting you cannot understand yet. This delay you have been living through is not empty time. It has been preparation time. Think about Joseph for a moment. Joseph was a young man with a God-given dream, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and later locked away in prison over a crime he never committed. For years, his life looked like nothing but loss. No money, no freedom, no comfort, no explanation. If Joseph had judged his future by his present circumstances, he would have believed his life was over. But there was a plan running underneath every single setback. Every prison cell became a classroom. Every betrayal became a stepping stone. And when the timing was finally right, Joseph did not just get a small blessing. He was placed in a position of such abundance and authority that the very brothers who once sold him for silver had to come begging him for bread. What looked like Joseph's darkest season was actually God quietly building the exact platform Joseph would need to carry the weight of the provision that was coming. Your story is following a similar pattern, even if it does not feel like it yet. The waiting you are in right now is not a sign that God abandoned you. It is a sign that something significant is being built. You do not build something significant overnight. You do not construct a house in a single afternoon. Foundations take time. And child, what God is preparing for you needs a strong foundation, because it is bigger than a quick fix. It is bigger than a small blessing that runs out in a week. God is not preparing pennies for you. He is preparing provision that will outlast the struggle that tried to break you. Let's talk about Elijah for a moment, and a widow you may have heard about before. There was a severe famine across the land. This widow had nothing left but a small handful of flour and a little oil in a jar, barely enough for one final meal for herself and her son. She was preparing to cook that last bit of food and then simply wait to die, because in her eyes there was nothing left. No hope, no plan, no future. But Elijah showed up in the middle of her hopelessness and asked her to trust God with the very last thing she had. She gave what little she had in faith, and something remarkable happened. The flour did not run out. The oil did not run dry. Day after day, that jar kept producing exactly what she needed, for as long as she needed it. Her lack did not disappear instantly. It was replaced with a miracle that sustained her far beyond what her own hands could ever produce. This is where everything changed for her, and it can change for you too. She did not manufacture that miracle. She did not work overtime or find a clever trick to stretch her resources. She simply trusted God in the exact moment when trusting made the least logical sense. And God met her obedience with supernatural provision. Your current situation may look like that widow's empty jar. It may look like there is nothing left, no more room to stretch, no more ways to make things work. But God specializes in exactly this kind of moment. He does His clearest miracles when human effort has run completely out of options. You were not created to live in constant financial struggle. You were not designed to spend your whole life anxious over rent, over groceries, over debt that seems to multiply no matter how hard you work. That anxious cycle is not the plan God has for your life. He created you to walk in provision, not desperation. And what happened next in your story, the part you have not lived yet, is going to shock the people who watched you struggle in silence. They saw you barely making it. They are about to see you overflowing. I want you to notice something about your life right now. Even in the middle of lack, you are still here. You have not given up completely, even on your hardest days. Something inside you kept believing even when your circumstances gave you every reason to stop. That persistence was not random. That was faith planted in you by God Himself, keeping you standing when everything around you said to sit down and quit. He put that fight in you on purpose because He knew this season would test you, and He knew you would need it to carry you through to what is coming next. Let's talk about Ruth. Ruth was a widow living in a foreign land with no inheritance, no family safety net, no obvious way forward. She made a decision to stay faithful, to work hard, gleaning leftover grain in the fields just to survive, day after exhausting day. It looked like a hard, thankless life with no real future attached to it. But her faithfulness in that small, unnoticed season put her directly in the path of Boaz, a man of wealth and integrity, who eventually became her husband and completely transformed her future. What looked like scraps in a field became the doorway to abundance she never could have planned for herself. Ruth's provision did not come from her own scheming. It came from her faithfulness being noticed by the right person at exactly the right time. Most people don't realize how much of their breakthrough is hidden in the season they are currently trying to escape. You want to skip ahead. You want the money to arrive tomorrow. the debt to vanish overnight, the pressure to lift immediately. That desire is completely understandable. Nobody enjoys pressure, but some of the character, the wisdom, the humility, and the resilience you are going to need to properly steward what is coming is being formed in you right now, in this very waiting season you wish you could rush through. God is saying to you today, I see your faithfulness in the small things. I see you showing up to work even when you are exhausted. I see you paying what you can, even when it feels like it is never enough. I see you praying even when your prayers feel unanswered. None of that has gone unnoticed. Heaven keeps better records than you realize, and your faithfulness in this hard season is being counted, valued, and rewarded. There is a spiritual side to financial struggle that most people never talk about. Sometimes delay is not just circumstantial. Sometimes there is resistance, an unseen pressure pushing against your breakthrough, trying to convince you to give up right before your miracle arrives. That resistance often gets loudest right before a shift happens. If you have felt an unusual weight lately, extra discouragement, extra doubt, extra tempting thoughts to quit believing, understand that this is often a sign you are closer to your breakthrough than you think, not further away from it. The enemy does not fight for territory he has already lost interest in. He fights hardest for what is about to be taken back. Think about Hagar for a moment, alone in the wilderness, believing she and her son were both going to die from thirst, with no resources and no rescue in sight. In her lowest, most hopeless moment, God met her directly. He opened her eyes to a well of water that had been there the entire time, right in front of her, but she simply could not see it in her despair. Sometimes your provision is closer than it feels. Sometimes God is not creating something brand new out of nothing. Sometimes He is simply opening your eyes to a door, an opportunity, a resource, a person that was already positioned nearby, waiting for the right moment to be revealed to you. I want you to receive this next part slowly because it matters. God is not limited by your current bank balance. He is not restricted by your credit history, your past mistakes, your current job title, or the doors that have already closed on you. Heaven's economy does not run on the same rules as the world's economy. What looks impossible on paper is not impossible to Him. He has moved through impossible situations before, and He is fully capable of doing it again in your life, in your finances, in your specific need right now. Consider David for a moment. Long before he became king, David was a shepherd boy, overlooked by his own family, left out in the fields while his brothers were considered for greater things. Nobody expected much from him. He was the youngest, the smallest, the one everyone assumed would simply tend sheep his whole life. Yet God had already chosen him for a throne, long before anyone else could see it. The gap between where David started and where God was taking him looked impossible to close through natural means alone. But God is not limited by what looks natural. He can take someone overlooked and lift them into a position no one saw coming, including the person it happens to. You may feel overlooked right now. You may feel like the person people don't expect much from, the one still waiting while others seem to move ahead. But being overlooked by people does not mean you are overlooked by God. In fact, some of His greatest provision is reserved for exactly the people the world stopped paying attention to. He delights in surprising people with breakthroughs nobody saw coming, including the person receiving it. Let's talk about the woman who had been bleeding for 12 long years, spending everything she had on doctors, growing weaker and more hopeless with each passing year, running out of both money and options. 12 years is a long time to wait for relief. 12 years is a long time to keep believing when nothing seems to change. But she made one final decision. She pushed through a crowded, chaotic space just to reach out and touch the edge of Jesus' garment. She did not need a long, complicated prayer. She did not need special qualifications. She simply reached out in faith, believing that one touch could undo 12 years of suffering. And it did, instantly, completely, permanently. That same faith is available to you right now. You do not need perfect words. You do not need a flawless track record with God. You simply need to reach toward Him today in whatever condition you are in and trust that He is willing and able to meet you there. Your years of financial struggle do not disqualify you from a sudden, complete turnaround. In fact, the longer the struggle has lasted, the more dramatic the testimony becomes once the breakthrough finally arrives. God is saying to you today, this delay is ending. Not someday in some distant, undefined future, but soon. The doors that have felt permanently shut are about to move. The opportunities that seem to keep passing you by are about to turn back in your direction. The resources you have been praying for are already assigned to you in heaven, and they are making their way into your hands through people, situations, and opportunities you have not even considered yet. I want you to picture your life a few months from now, once this provision arrives. Picture yourself paying something off completely instead of just managing the minimum. Picture yourself breathing easier when you check your account, instead of holding your breath every single time. Picture yourself helping someone else the way you always wanted to, instead of feeling stretched too thin to give anything at all. That picture is not wishful thinking. That is a preview of what is coming, and I want you to hold on to it, because faith needs a picture to hold on to while it waits. You were not here by accident. Out of everyone scrolling through their phone tonight, you found this exact video with this exact message on this exact day. That is not coincidence. That is divine timing. God orchestrated this moment because He wanted you to hear these words directly at the exact point in your journey when you needed to hear them most. He knew you were close to giving up on believing for financial breakthrough. He knew doubt had been creeping in, and He sent this message to interrupt that doubt before it could take root any deeper. There is something else I want you to understand before we go any further, something that will help you carry this promise with steadiness instead of anxiety. Provision from God rarely looks the way we imagine it in our minds. Sometimes we picture one dramatic moment, a single check, a single windfall, a single phone call that fixes everything in an instant. And sometimes God does move that way, but often His provision arrives in a sequence. A door opens here, a small opportunity shows up there. A person you barely expected reaches out with exactly the right connection at exactly the right time. Each piece on its own might look small, but when you step back and look at the whole picture later, you will see that every piece was placed deliberately, building toward the exact outcome you have been praying for. Think about Moses for a moment. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, tending sheep, far away from the palace he grew up in, far away from any position of influence or wealth. From the outside, it looked like a wasted life, a man hiding from his past with no future ahead of him. But those quiet, hidden years were not wasted. They were preparation. God was shaping Moses' character in obscurity, teaching him patience in the wilderness that he would later need to lead an entire nation out of bondage. And when the moment finally came, it did not come with a slow trickle of resources. It came with an entire nation walking out of slavery, carrying silver, gold, and provision that their captors willingly handed over to them on their way out the door. The very people who had oppressed them for generations ended up funding their freedom. Your wilderness season has not been wasted either, even on the days it felt pointless. Every skill you have quietly built, every relationship you have maintained, even when it was hard, every ounce of integrity you have held onto while struggling financially, all of it is being woven into the testimony you are about to carry. God does not skip the wilderness. He uses it, and He is going to use every difficult year you have walked through as fuel for the gratitude and the wisdom you will need once provision finally arrives. I also want to gently address something you may be feeling right now, because honesty matters here. Maybe you have prayed for financial breakthrough before, more than once, and it did not come the way you hoped. Maybe you have felt embarrassed, even praying for it again, wondering if you are simply asking too much, too often, without enough results to show for it. Child, hear this. God is not tired of your prayers. He is not annoyed by your persistence. What looks like delay to you is not God growing distant from your request. It is God perfecting the timing so that when provision comes, it lands in a way that truly lasts, rather than a way that disappears as quickly as it arrived. Most people don't realize this, but a breakthrough that comes too early, before the character and the wisdom to steward it exists, often gets wasted quickly. That is why some seasons of waiting feel so long. God is not simply making you wait for the sake of waiting. He is making sure that when this money arrives, you are ready to keep it, to grow it, to use it for good, and to avoid the mistakes that swallow up sudden blessings when there has been no preparation behind them. Every month you have pressed through has added something valuable to your character that will protect what is coming. I want to speak directly to any fear you might be carrying about this promise not being real, about this simply being wishful thinking instead of true prophetic direction. That fear is normal after a long season of disappointment. But fear and faith cannot both lead your heart at the same time. One of them has to take the driver's seat. And today, I am asking you to let faith take control, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. You do not need to feel completely confident to start believing again. You simply need to be willing. Willingness is where faith begins, and God can work with willingness even when confidence is still catching up. There is one more thing I want you to carry with you from this message. Gratitude has a strange power in seasons of waiting. It does not deny the struggle. It does not pretend everything feels fine. But choosing gratitude for what you do have, even while waiting for what you don't have yet, opens something in your spirit that complaining never can. It positions your heart to recognize provision the moment it arrives, instead of missing it because you were too focused on what was still missing. Thank God today, even in this waiting, for the strength that has carried you this far. That strength did not come from nowhere. It came from Him, and it is proof that He has been closer to you than you realized. Let's pray together right now, because faith becomes powerful when it is spoken out loud. Close your eyes if you can, or simply quiet your heart wherever you are. Father, I come to you right now with an honest heart. I have been waiting so long for breakthrough, and some days it has felt like it will never come. I confess the doubt I have carried, the fear I have hidden, and the exhaustion I have tried to push through on my own strength. Today, I release that weight into your hands. I believe you see every need I have. I believe you have already prepared provision for me, and it is on its way right now. I believe delays are not denials, and silence has never meant absence. Break every spirit of lack over my life. Break every cycle of struggle that has followed me for far too long. Open doors that no person can open, and close doors that were never meant for me. Bring the money, the opportunities, and the breakthrough you have already assigned to me. I receive it by faith right now in Jesus' name. Amen. If you believe that prayer was for you, type Amen in the comments right now. Let that word become your declaration of faith. If you feel in your spirit that your breakthrough is finally here, comment, I receive it, and mean it with your whole heart. And if this message specifically found you today, if every word felt like it was written just for your situation, write 777 in the comments as your sign of agreement with what God just spoke over your life. I want you to think about something before we close. What would change in your life? Truly change if this financial breakthrough arrived exactly like God just promised? Who would you help first? What would finally feel possible again? What weight would finally lift off your shoulders? Sit with that question for a moment, because your answer reveals exactly what you are believing God for, and naming it matters. If this message spoke to you, if you felt something shift while watching, please take a moment to like this video. It helps this message reach reach someone else who desperately needs to hear it today, someone who might be sitting exactly where you were sitting a few minutes ago, wondering if God still sees them. Subscribe to Soft Strength and turn on the bell icon so the next time God has a message like this one, you are among the first to receive it. Your long-awaited money is coming, child, not because you earned it through struggle, but because God promised it, and He does not break His promises. Hold on a little longer. Your breakthrough is closer than it has ever been. One day soon, you are going to look back at this exact season, the one you are living through right now, and you are going to see it completely differently than you see it today. What feels like struggle right now will become part of your testimony. What feels like silence right now will become proof of God's perfect timing. You will tell someone else, someone standing exactly where you are standing today, that the wait was hard, but it was never wasted, and that the provision that finally came was worth every difficult night that came before it. Until that day arrives, keep believing. Keep whispering thank you even before you see the full answer. Keep showing up faithfully in the small things, because heaven is watching and heaven remembers. Your long-awaited money is finally coming, and this time nothing is going to stop it.